Hello guys, Professor Suarez bringing you video 3. I'm really excited about this topic. It's a topic that's dear to my heart, and it's going to have a little bit of a different tone because it's a little bit ad-lib, but I think it's going to turn out really well, and I'm really excited to bring you a video on vision and mission. So let's go ahead and get started. When we talk about vision, the same way a bullseye has layers which determine how close you are to hitting it, your vision is a layered problem that requires you to constantly aim and shoot to potentially get closer to your target. Usually this is done through trial and error, but sometimes we have to go through a process of figuring out what exactly our vision is, right? Because sometimes we may be focused on the wrong target and be wasting a lot of resources and a lot of our time trying to get that to fruition. The way we're going to define vision is as the value-driven purpose of your company, initiative, or project. And the reason that it's value-driven is because your values determine what you focus on and what your decisions are based on, right? So if you value money and wealth, then you're going to focus on a goal that's oriented towards that. But if you value people and family, then that really changes your vision as well. And the reality is, if you don't tune into what your values are, you're going to find yourself focused on some things that might not be to your benefit or might not even be what you want. So let's pull back the layers and look at what are the things that are surrounding your vision, right? So with respect to this class, what we're going to be talking about is how to build a team, a MVP, which is a minimum viable product, and how to build a story. And the reason that these are the layers that help you to get to your bullseye is because a team is going to be the people that you surround yourself with to help you achieve your goal. A minimum viable product with regards to a business is it's the simplest form of your product. This might still have kinks that need to be worked out, and it might not be the product that your customers are dying to buy, but it's the most simplest form of what you're trying to sell. And a story is important because that's what people buy into. When we gave the example of Couchsurfing International, it was the story and the team that people bought into. The fact that there was someone out there who was a go-getter trying to get these things set up, who had a passion for traveling, another person who was a technical expert as far as developing software, another one who had experience with successful startups. All these things were taken into account and were probably the main drivers to what got people to want to invest, right? Because the reality is, investors don't just invest in your product, they invest in you and your capacity. So we're going to take the time to help delve into how to build these things out. The first step is, in order to build a team, you have to love your work, right? So there's a TED Talk that I'm going to put up by Shane Lopez, and he talks about how people they don't land in the jobs that they love, and they don't land in the work that they love. To some degree, they have to design it so that way it becomes a job that they love. Shane Lopez surveyed a group of people to determine whether or not they loved their job. And when he found out that only 13% loved their job, he tried to figure out what was the underlying principles that brought them all together. What he found out was that, first of all, it's income independent, obviously, right? You're not going to love a job that you don't get paid at. But the other piece was that these people designed the jobs that they were in. So now that might seem a little bit strange, because how do you design a job? With them, what they had to do was be entrepreneurial, right? So they had to go out and ask questions, develop different metrics for themselves on what they determine to be successful, go out and do new projects, right? And these are the same concepts and principles we're learning for being an entrepreneur, right? So how do you love your work? You have to design it. You have to design it in a way that's going to benefit not just your values, but the values of other people that are going to be working for you. You have to make it a place where people are going to want to do the project and want to strive for something greater and bigger. If not, then chances are you're not going to love it. And you have to be able to compensate them. Sometimes the compensation is not a monetary value that people look for up front, but maybe compensation is getting credit, maybe some equity. Who knows? But that is something that you will determine with your team. So fine, we design the jobs that we end up loving and enjoying, but that still doesn't tell us how we go about building it. Well, as you'll see in the other TEDx talk by Andrew Stilto, what I want you guys to start thinking about is how do you get people behind what you're trying to do, right? It's easy to sell the different values and the different aspects that perhaps are what you enjoy about this industry or this kind of work. But the purpose, the why, is what's going to get people to really buy into what you're trying to accomplish. So you want to think about, why does this work well in getting people to be a part of your team? Think about it, right? If you look at any time a person calls you to go out or to hang out or to do some kind of sport or anything, right? The first thing you ask is maybe some of the details. What should I wear? What time? Who's going to be there, right? But underneath all that, what you're really trying to get at is, why should I go, right? If it's, at a time that's reasonable for you, that means that you have a schedule open for you to go ahead and do that. If there's people there that you enjoy being around, it's to get that social aspect. If it's a place that you like to go to, that might be reason enough to get you to go there. But people don't talk about the why. They talk about the details. They talk about when they're promoting when people are promoting their product or their teams or their ideas, they talk about first what it is and how cool it's going to be and what a great leader I am and all these things that people, it just doesn't resonate with them. If you talk about why you do things, for example, my purpose is to be a blessing to the previous generation and to bless the entrance of the next. What I do is I create educational videos and courses that are designed to help transition that information or to pass that information that's going to help others become successful. Would you like to be a part of my team? That seems to resonate more than me saying, hi, I'm a professor and I teach classes. You see what I'm saying? It's about starting with the purpose first. And Andrew Stilto gives a great oration about why you do that, as well as some of the key aspects to building a team. So I want you not just to think about designing something that you're going to love, but designing something that other people will love, and thinking about how the purpose is the ultimate goal. It's the ultimate bullseye, and that's what's going to get people a part of your team. Now with Simon Sinek, he does have a video that really highlights this, and you don't have to watch it, but I do recommend it. It's a TEDx talk. Simon Sinek has a book titled Leaders Eat Last, and in this book he talks about some of the aspects of what makes a great leader. Aside from them eating last, he says that those leaders also start with a why. And when people who are looking to make decisions or value judgments about the choices that they make, before they consider giving up trust, time, risk, or depending on someone, they want to know what their beliefs are. And he makes an argument that people treat human interaction as a luxury, but it is the crux of trust and engagement. So with respect to all these resources, if you don't start out with the why, people are not going to give you your time. They're not going to give you any trust. They're not going to take risks with you. They're not going to depend on you. You have to come up with why it is you do what you do. Why should they care? And why it's also important that they participate in it. And that's when you're going to get the ultimate engagement of people, regardless of what you pay them, regardless of what value is added, because if they believe in something, if they wake up every morning, drive to school because they want exactly what you're offering, man, that's going to be a better motivator than anything else that all these other companies are offering. So again, how to build. As you meditate on your business idea, I want you to think about the following. Who are you and why we should care? What events have complicated you to achieving this purpose before? What defining moment made you take action about what's stopping you from completing your purpose? And what is happening as a result of that defining moment? Or what do you want to happen? At this point, you also want to think about, what do you want your listeners to do? So when you get up and you talk to the class about your business idea, your story, and remember, first you're going to start off with your purpose statement, right? These are all things that you want to shine out in the presentation that you're giving to the class. Because again, if you're trying to recruit, you want people to buy into what you're doing. Because if you don't get anybody, you're going to end up working on it on your own, or having to negotiate with another team to take on some aspect of your idea or project. So now, with respect to the process that we're going to be going into moving forward, we are going to talk about the idea of the lean startup. So the lean startup is an entrepreneurship that is management. Yes, management. I said it. And the reason that it's a management style, based on the book The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, he talks about the lean startup being a matter of reducing some of the excess that's associated with business and keeping it small enough that you could experiment and fail without losing money and time and resources that are so valuable to us. He talks about in his book some of the experiences he had where he would be working on a project, and unfortunately at the end of the project, expecting to have traction and lots of customers, he found that people didn't really want the product that he made. And it was only after the fact that he realized that most of the things that he was pushing forth was just things that he wanted. But once he took into account what the customers actually wanted, they were able to adapt and change it. Not only that, but he also took a step back and tried to figure out where he could have made the adjustment early on. And because of that, he was able to develop what's now known as the lean startup management style. So now the parts that you could take advantage of is that writing a plan has some of the principles that a business school teach us. But because of the high volatility that entrepreneurships work under, it requires different processes, different standards, and a different metric to measure against. Practices of lean startup are different and often contradictory to common practice. Yet time and time again, your actions gain more value. So now we're starting to get into the good stuff. Developing our minimum viable product. So now the thing that I want you to start thinking about is planning and execution. Now, as far as time allocation is concerned, 20% is based on developing the idea, and 80% is execution with respect to time. Now, that doesn't mean that the execution is the most important part or that planning is the most important part. With respect to the idea, it's a matter of 50-50, right? Because if you have a great idea and horrible execution, you may still be able to draw some value out of that. But if you have a bad idea but great execution, again, you're able to draw from that experience, right? So really, it's not a matter of what it is that you guys decide to do, but the fact that you're able to take something away from it. So the questions that I'm going to ask you is, what strategy will lead you to your vision? Contingent on the fact that you have the right vision in place. And the second thing is, what is it that your customers really want? Not what they think they want, but what they really would like to get from you. And sometimes this isn't as obvious as, hey, would you be interested in buying this product, or would you be interested in having a service that does X, Y, and Z? It's more about really trying to research and experiment on the behaviors of customers and consumers, and then seeing if that behavior would contribute to more money or a revenue stream later down the line when you're developing your business. That being said, we want to emphasize that the key to this class is learning. So when we do experiments, or when we do projects, or when we do something with respect to our business, the key is validated learning, which is, as highlighted in the Lean Startup, rigorous method for validating the process and demonstrating empirically that a startup discovered a truth about what failures a strategy has, meaning that you're designing it to fail, and you're designing it to fail in such a way that you're going to draw information on what's happening. And who knows, sometimes you might not fail, sometimes you might find success, which is good because it means that your intuition was right all along. But the worst thing to do is to make a product that nobody wants, and that's what we're trying to avoid with the lowest amount of cost possible. Right, so failure is required prerequisite. An experiment has to have aspects which are tested to show what aspects of the product or service is wanted, or a complete failure, and then adapted accordingly. Thinking big and starting small is an aspect defined in the first video, which you still want to carry over into your project. An example is Joseph Campbell and the cake mix, which is gone over in one of the TED Talks that I'm going to put up. And what was funny about this was when they first developed cake mix, it was just cake mix, milk, put in the oven, and bake. And, you know, this was a big deal back in the time that it was invented, yet unfortunately not a lot of people bought it at first. So they brought on Joseph Campbell to really take a look at why customers weren't buying cake mix. And when he spoke to the customers, they just felt like they would never use the product in their kitchen because it didn't feel like it was their own. They weren't making the cakes. The cakes were already pre-made and they just threw it in the oven. But they wanted to feel like they were putting some love or some effort into it. So, what do? They added the egg. So now, instead of it just being a cake mix, milk, bake, easy, 3-step, they added an extra step that shows that there was some effort. But what this example shows is that the importance of people being able to own something, right, to make it their own, has to be involved with this MVP, right? Not only that, taking a view of the system, which we've done in the class, right? The nodes and the different steps associated with the process that we take in our business, that is really going to be the key in defining and differentiating our product and our service to all the other services out there. And taking into account what Simon Sinek says, adding that human touch, that's not a luxury. That is something that is going to set you apart from these big businesses that, customer service is an email or a video chat. No, we're going to add that human touch, that value add of being personal with these products. And that's really going to resonate because you have the advantage of dealing one-on-one with the customer. It's not an email like, oh, thank you for your complaint, someone will follow up with you. It's, hey, I'm the CEO of this company. Why is it that you feel that this product isn't good? What could we do to improve it? That's going to resonate with your clients a lot better. And that's the advantage that you have as a startup. And again, I'm not trying to paint this as a beautiful, optimistic picture. Your vision is going to be broken down, and it's going to be tested, and it's going to go through the fire. you have to break it down into two hypotheses. You want a value hypothesis, which talks about what is it that serves as a proxy for what customers gain. What's the value in what your vision is? And the second is the growth hypothesis. How are new users exposed to this product, and are they telling their friends about it? Are they posting it on Instagram or Snapchat, telling people to try it? This is what is going to be tested, because these two hypotheses are the basis for business. If there's value in it, people will buy it. People will pay money to be involved in it. People will give you their time to be involved in it. If there's a growth aspect, you don't have to worry about the cost of advertising, because the best advertisement is friends and family that give a recommendation to this product. An example that was given by the book was Zappos. Zappos is an online shoe store, and the way they started out is they would take pictures of shoes at different stores and they would post it online as their own inventory. And the guy said, look, if a customer says that they would buy it, I will buy it off of you full price and then ship it to them. In the course of testing the first assumption, the value that people are ready for an online shoe service, he also discovered a couple other things. Zappos was able to test customer service, a website design, and even their return policy. Because what would happen if he ended up buying it and the customer was not satisfied with the product? Which happened a couple times. But this is valuable because as an entrepreneur, you want to learn and experience what does it take to develop these things. You can easily research this, right? Go to Harvard Business Review and they have plenty of articles on customer service and how to improve it. But what's missing is that this is the most up-to-date information. By being on the front line, this allows the company to be surprised. And you have an ease in communication and interaction with these customers that Fortune 500s wish they could have. Zappos ended up being bought by Amazon for over $1 billion. And this is because they went ahead and did the work and took the time to experiment and test out their value hypothesis and their growth hypothesis. So now, with respect to designing these kinds of experiments, it's a team effort. And what tends to happen, the product manager usually says, well, this is what I want, so we're going to make this. While the engineer says, this is what I want to build, so we're going to build this. But here's the 4 questions that I want you to answer. Do customers recognize this problem that you're bringing up as a problem that they have, right? Because if you're building something and you're saying this is a problem that everybody has and nobody even realizes it, it's going to just shoot right over their head. The other thing is, would they buy a solution to the product? In my first entrepreneurial endeavor, we developed a entrepreneurship course for college leaders, which got a cash flow going in. Then the second product we were building was a mentoring program that was focused on helping at-risk students. This is ESL and troublesome students to get into college. The first product had a cash flow, but the second product didn't, right? Because what would happen is we would go to these high schools to talk to these kids, but the high schools wouldn't pay for these services. And the more we did it, it had some social value, right? So the people participating got some value out of it. But as far as the payment, it was very difficult. It was almost like pulling teeth. First is an entrepreneurship course, learning how to develop your own business, get your own ideas out there, and getting the experience that's going to help you to be a leader. Those are not hard sales, right? And that was saleable to the market that we were approaching. So with that, it was a simple choice. Stick with the cash cow. Now, the third thing is, would they buy it from you? Now, maybe with my personal example of dealing with at-risk students, maybe it was that they didn't want to buy it from me and they wanted to buy it from a professor or a college or a firm that had a track record. And this seems to be the case because my business partner continued doing it, and now he has a revenue stream and contracts with different schools to come in and bring college leaders and bring college students. But maybe at the time when we were just college students trying to do this, it didn't seem like the right choice to put this money forth. The last thing that you want to ask yourself is, can you build a solution to the problem? Sure, you could be optimistic and say, yeah, of course, if we spend millions of dollars and millions of hours and all the time in the world, we'll figure it out. But do you have that time to be contributing to it? And this kind of ties into the second video and determining what opportunities are out there and whether or not they're worth your time and money. That being said, the book talks about, our textbook talks about 2 approaches to researching the market. There's market research, where you're going out there and really evaluating what the market wants, and then the aspect that the lean startup is talking about, where it's learning through experimentation. So there are 2 approaches to researching the market. There's actual market research, which is incumbent on taking into account competition, marketing strategy, your market segment, sale forecasting, and really writing out a plan based on research. And then there is the lean startup method, which is learning through experimentation. Now, I'm going to leave it up to you guys to use a mix of these things to prove that either your MVP or your business purpose is validated and is a true indicator of how successful you guys will be. Aside from maybe earning revenue and getting a customer base during the class, which I think would be ideal because that's cash flow coming into your pocket. But the reality is, the book, which is very detailed and very oriented towards what I learned in my business degree with my master's, and the lean startup is really based on what I've experienced being an entrepreneur and developing businesses and business projects throughout my career. And the point I'm trying to get across is, it's not about finding customers, it's about discovering, earning, and winning advocates. In my master's course, they talk about there's a topic of agile development, which focuses on creating and developing without waste. But the worst waste, as I said before, is making something that no one wants. It's easy to say that a failure like that helps you to really discover what people want. But the real question is, how long can you afford to waste time before finding out what it is customers really want? Lean thinking is about making what is valuable to a customer. All else is waste. Experiments that allow you to prove concept without building can give insight to customer behavior and desire without having to spend an exorbitant amount. I could give you a few examples, like developing a download button, an upload button, a purchase button, a sign-up sheet, a follower base, an Instagram page. All these things and more can help give you a proof of concept, or proof that you actually have something of value. The main issue and the main difference, right? These are the sources that I got a lot of my information, including Tony Robbins, who, we're going to talk about in class as far as his formula for success. And, it's very different from what the textbook talks about, but I don't want you to automatically throw out what the textbook is saying, because the textbook gives you technical information based on tried and true methods of analysis and evaluation. And you could still take these aspects and make it your own and use parts of it to really develop your case as to what is the best business approach for my product, for my purpose, and for the values that my team and I share. with that being said, I hope this video was insightful, and I hope you get a lot from the TEDx videos that I put up as well. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Again, this is Professor Suarez signing off. Take care.